Hello, one and all. Welcome to the No Name Cinema Society. It is the 44th meeting of the No Name Cinema Society. We've got a great series of shows coming up for you, starting tonight with our review of the current feature, Murder on the Orient Express, the remake directed by Kenneth Branagh. Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan BETZLER. I am one of your hosts for the evening here at the No Name Cinema Society. I'm very excited that you're all here. I'm back in my own apartment for the first time in a long time, and it's going to be the only time in a long time. It's going to be another month since I'm here. Our next couple shows, I'll be back at my ex's in Playa del Rey, then to New York, then to Playa del Rey, then maybe here in between. I'm all over the place, but that's why you love me. Tonight, I am drinking Elysian Space Dust IPA. I'm trying a new thing, and if you are a small brewery out there and you want us to mention your beer, send it to me and I will drink it on air, like so. All right, now, ooh, it's tangy. So anyway, it's time to introduce my co-host for the evening. Let's start with the old standard, our favorite gangster slash art dealer. Ladies and gentlemen, Drunk Davie's back with us.
How you doing?
That's all he's got. And he honestly doesn't really care how you're doing. And of course, we've got a new member, another new member as we expand the No Name Cinema Society. I'd like to welcome the newest member of the No Name Cinema Society, the young, handsome Ryan Turner.
What's going on?
Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
So it's the first time we've ever had someone who's 17 on the show.
I can't have the beers. Don't give me the beers. That's going to be illegal.
Fair point. Ryan is a young, talented director and writer that I've worked with several times over the last 3 years as an AD. Now, Ryan, my key question for you is, have you ever seen one of our shows before?
Mm-hmm.
Have you really?
So surprised.
I am surprised.
You're really
Every time we have a new guest, I'm like, tell me about the shows that you've watched. And they're like, what shows? And so this is very exciting. So you, even though you're officially meeting Drunk Davie now for the first time, you've seen him and his work before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he has to say about
like it.
Yeah.
Now, my other fun little tidbit is Ryan and I he lives here in LA, and we went to see Murder on the Orient Express together. We did a vlog on it. He actually only appeared as a hand, but we went to see the film together, didn't we, Ryan?
We did.
It was your other hand, by the way, for what it's worth.
Oh, yeah, that was. Well, thanks. They wouldn't have known.
Anyway, here's our schedule for our 44th series of episodes. Tonight, of course, Murder on the Orient Express in 4 days, Monday, November 20th. We're going to do the Indie Spotlight, Rust and Bone, as we continue spotlighting indies from 2012. On Wednesday, November 22nd, a special Wednesday show because we have Thanksgiving on the 23rd. Wednesday, 22nd, our classic movie discussion is Lolita. So that's a discussion you guys can chew on as you travel to your destination for the holiday. And on Monday, November 27th, we've got a sound off again, our freeform segment. Davey's going to have another diatribe. Jim will have a second run for you, our new member Jim. And I've got my top 5 Kubrick movies, so that's kind of fun. Today, of course, is November the 16th. And on this day, historically, in 1907 on this day, Oklahoma became the 46th state in the Union. Oklahoma is celebrating its 110th birthday with the Union, and you can celebrate with Davey's favorite movie.
Yeah, it's a great one.
It's a great one. It's right. It's one of my favorites. We talked about it in episode 23.3. Also in this day on history, Billy Wilder's The Lost Weekend was released in 1945. It went on to win Best Picture that year. Do either of you know the only other Billy Wilder film to win Best Picture? Davey?
Didn't Fortune Cookie win it?
Fortune Cookie won Best Supporting Actors. And we just did the whole 1966 in review, and you know A Man for All Seasons won that year. Talked about it extensively. He's on the show almost every time, and he doesn't remember anything on the show. Ryan, do you know what Billy Wilder film?
Ben-Hur?
Ben-Hur is not a Billy Wilder film. That's William Wyler. I guess it's close, and you and I just watched a William Wyler film at my house not too long ago. The answer would be The Apartment is the other Billy Wilder film to win Best Picture, and that will be a show coming up in 2018 if the show makes it to 2018. So, also in this day in history, 1957, Davey will like this one, Bill Russell sets the NBA record for rebounds in a game with 49 boards in a single game. Of course, Davie, he did it against the Philadelphia Warriors on November 16th, 1957. But, Davie, Philly would get its revenge 3 years later in 1960. Wilt Chamberlain with the Philadelphia Warriors grabbed 55 boards to set the record, which still stands today, and he did it against the Celtics. So revenge was his. Davie, can you imagine anyone ever getting 55 boards ever in a game again?
No.
And that's all he's going to say about that.
We have some good responses.
And birthdays today. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is Lisa Bonet's 50th birthday. Lisa Bonet, of course, from the Cosby Show fame, and she still looks good. Here you can see her with her daughter Zoe. And talked about Zoe in movies we reviewed, such as Allegiant in episode 5. We talked about Mad Max in episode 10, and also Insurgent in episode 25.1. So Zoe Kravitz has come up a bunch. Do you guys have anything else on this day in history?
No.
Excellent. Ryan's going to follow Davie's lead on that stuff. All right, summary time, everybody. Murder in the Orient Express. World-famous detective Hercule Poirot is rerouted to London and has to take the train called the Orient Express. Just his luck, a murder is committed on the train during the 3-day trip, and Poirot's uncanny abilities are put to the test in spite of only a handful of suspects, passengers on the train. Guys, how do you feel about that summary?
It's excellent.
Excellent summary. Ryan, thoughts on the summary?
Yeah, okay.
I love it. Thank you, Ryan. All right, it's time for opening thoughts, and normally that's like a one-sentence thought on the film, like early thoughts, but Davie's got a little story to tell about his experience. So, Davie, you go ahead first with opening thoughts.
Yeah, all right. So just to give you some context, I had to go to Seattle for dinner on Thursday. So I flew out there. I went to dinner, had a few dozen drinks, left dinner, went to the airport, flew back to New York, went to work.
Strikes again!
And anyway, after work, I went to see Murder on the Orient Express with a bunch of friends, sat down, movie started, I fell asleep. And then I woke up and saw the end. So the next day, I went and saw Murder on the Orient Express again. Having seen the end, not the way to see this movie, by the way. Just going to throw that out there.
Is that your opening thought?
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, your opening thought. We saw it together. What'd you think?
Yeah. So I'd heard about the original. I had not really read up on it. Didn't really know in terms of plot, what to expect. And I thought it was a nice homage. It wasn't a movie that felt like it would have been made in 2017. It felt like an older movie with very, just classically done. I thought there were some interesting things Branagh did directing-wise. But I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it.
Note to self, we got to work on these opening thoughts. And Davie wasn't a good example tonight, but usually like one sentence. For example, I feel like it's a capable, cinematic, and mostly well-executed adaptation of a pretty stupid book. And that's and I'll start with the positive things, and Ryan, you sort of hit on it. And I do think there are some nice things he did in terms of direction, mainly shot selection. And Ryan whispered to me at one point during the movie about one of the particular shots that I am going to talk about. But before we get to that, my favorite moment is there's a super long take early on in the movie when everyone's boarding the train, almost Creed-like, Davie. It's a visceral and wonderfully well executed, motivated. I thought it was terrific and super well blocked. Davie, what do you think about that particular shot?
I agree. I think that the movie is just sort of beautiful, and the way it's shot is it keeps the movie interesting, even maybe where the story isn't.
Ryan, what did you think about long take? I've got you the shot you whispered. I've got coming up next. What did you think of this long take?
I thought, like you said, it was quite impressive. I think there's a lot of movies these days that do long takes that are just for the sake of gimmicks. Marvel movies are another one of those where it's just like, let's fly around like a crazy camera. But this one felt, first of all, grounded because it felt like a camera. It felt like a real camera. And I know later on they did a nice, they went outside the train and they came back into the window on one of these. There was a long shot later on in the movie. But this one particularly really stood out as a nice intro to each character. And I thought, yeah, like you said, it was really well executed. Yeah,
that's exactly my point. Because I'm always complaining about the long takes that aren't motivated, and this one was. Also, the overhead shot that you whispered to me about during the thing that you seemed really impressed with. I don't know if you were. I think the main thing you whispered is that they held on it for a really long time. I was impressed with that. It's a neat idea, but I do think they ruined it when it crossed over into the next room. It exposed the set, something that De Palma does a lot, and I feel like that was a mistake. They had a good thing going here with this overhead, and then when they went to the next room, Poirot's room, it exposed the top of the set. There'd be a roof there, guys. Come on now. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a choice. I was torn on terms of like whether I liked it or not, because I was very aware of it. You know what I mean? There wasn't like okay, they're committing to this overhead shot, and it's making you feel very isolated from the event because you can't see what's happening in the room, you can't see what they're looking at and talking about. But it did kind of give you a nice, interesting. Like I said, it was an interesting choice, storytelling, but. And I don't know, I kind of liked it going over the head. I mean, they kind of break that reality a lot throughout the movie. It's not like they mess with that space.
And I'm gonna segue to that because I do have some other complaints along those lines. But I don't know, Ryan. I know you well enough to know if we were in a shot list meeting and I complained about moving into the next room, I think you would argue with me, then go home, think about it, and come back and say, you're right, Jonathan.
Is that's how it play out? Yeah. No. It's hard to see. I mean, I'm trying to go from memory, but and I don't really know what you gained from that second room besides just seeing it, storytelling wise. I don't know what story info you kind of got, because eventually, you do see the flashbacks of the room, and you do see the body. But I think what was interesting is, what's up?
No, sorry, finish.
Well, I think that's interesting is the doctor character going in. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but the doctor basically, you kind of gain your trust because you don't really see what he's checking in on. He comes out and he says, here's what happened.
There's limited angles on this train. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can do. So I think the overhead was a nice way of difference. And it was bold to hold on it for as long as they did, but they lost me when they crossed over because I think it breaks the wall, really, literally and figuratively. So Davey, what are your thoughts about this overhead shot? Do you remember the one we talked about?
I do, and I've seen it in other movies where what they do is they kind of like show like the camera go through the ceilings, like it's kind of like X-ray vision, so you can it kind of keeps the reality in quotes, it preserves that. That might have been something they could have tried there. Doesn't really bother me that much since I do know it's a fictional story that I'm watching, but I can see where you could quibble with it.
So you're saying that it didn't break you from the story?
No, it didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of it. But I get your point.
Small things, and I think that this is some of the stuff that Ryan was referring to that did take me out of it, is I do think they had a series of mirror shot double images things when they were in the main car that I felt like was a little forced, and maybe they went to that well one too many times. And I get the point of it, but it's a little hacky to me. Davey, I'll let you go first on this one.
I think sometimes the director can get a little, when you're in a confined space, they just kind of grasp at gimmicks and tricks. No, I don't want to say gimmicks. They just want to show their skills and keep it interesting. Maybe he overdid it a little.
You might not be wrong with the word gimmicks, at least to me. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely aware of those shots. Which, good or bad, I was like, oh, yep, that's a shot. It's just kind of, I can see he's using those reflections a lot. He was using them a lot, like enough that it came back in my head a bunch of times. Again, yeah. And so
once too often.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Willem Dafoe, like they love to use it with him because it's like, oh, get it, because he's there's more than meets the eye.
It has some moments that hit you over the head, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very beautiful film, but yeah, like you said, he was maybe afraid of just standard coverage because it's already kind of a plain thing, so he's trying to switch it up and kind of keep it visually interesting. I think is a choice that was trying to probably counteract some of the slower pacing in like the second act.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything more on shot selection that you guys wanted to talk about that I didn't bring up?
And this is more of a staging thing, but that was really interesting on the final when he's going through his whole final detective thing at the end, and they staged everybody like the Last Supper.
I didn't make a note of that, but I did think of that during the movie, and I was like, that's so interesting is not the word I would use. Goofy is the word I would use. But Davey, anything on that?
Well, the person I saw the movie with the first time noted that exact same thing too, and I guess I was still too sleepy to pick up on it. But what did you think of the long shot of the train on the bridge?
I thought it was okay. It added some little extra energy. And don't forget, I actually had seen the original. I suppose neither of you have seen the Sidney Lumet version from 1974.
I haven't.
No.
I was impressed with it in that sense. Like it did open the space up a little bit. Use VFX maybe a little too obviously. I mean, Ryan is something of a VFX expert, so maybe he'll speak to that. But I didn't love it. I didn't hate it either. Like I saw the point of it. I wish it was done more practically.
Did you guys see it in 70 millimeter or?
No, I don't think so. And there's no reason for this movie to be in 70 millimeter, I don't think.
Well, you can tack $3 onto the ticket, I guess.
I assume you didn't watch our vlog, but both of us used MoviePass to get in.
Oh, that's exciting. Is this the is this the first one or this?
It's the second one but the first one that I've used for the show.
Okay. All right. That's exciting.
Ryan, what do you think about that bridge shot he's talking about?
So refresh me on what that shot is.
It's a moving shot outside the car as the car is early on, as the car's moving across the bridge right before the avalanche, and we sort of see the passengers through the windows, right, Davey? That's what you're talking
right.
about?
Yeah, and I think they did that a couple times. They did it when it was stopped too, just to kind of go up to the window.
I think it was stopped. The one I'm thinking of is when it was stopped. But...
Right, so that kind of comes in and goes up to the window. Yeah, it's going from window to window, and you kind of see everyone doing their thing. I thought it was interesting because I felt like they established this kind of very classical style. Then they did shots like that kind of felt a little bit out of place. Didn't bug me. I wasn't frustrated when I saw it, but when you think about it, it doesn't really match the world or the tone they've created.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to update it, make it feel more updated, especially with this version that's 43 years old out there. I can see the reason, but I agree with you. Like, it could have been cooler if it was done practically, but it was probably a little pricey. The other directorial choices that I liked, and it's also part of the screenplay, is I thought the pace was really good. It was brisk without rushing, and I really liked the dispersing of information in that way. I was never confused, and I think it's a real challenge in a movie like this in getting all the info across without feeling slow. I think that's an accomplishment both for the editor, the director, and the screenplay. Before we talk about performances, anything you guys want to say about that?
I love the opening. I thought it was a very strong opening, an introduction to the character. What
do you think about the pace overall?
The pacing, I thought I liked. I didn't find myself ever kind of feeling it dragged, but again, I'd never seen the source material or read it or the original, so I was just kind of entrapped. Right. Like it was.
Well, and that's good that we have that different perspective, and neither one of us felt like it dragged. Davey, what about you? You fell asleep once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the movie's fault. No, it didn't. It doesn't drag. It gets a bit frustrating because you keep kind of, there's a reveal after reveal after reveal, and they're all kind of like in the same vein. That's
sort of what I hinted at the beginning. Like that's an issue with the source material.
Yeah.
To be honest, and that's my biggest issue with both versions. Is I personally think this particular work of Agatha Christie is silly, and it was famous for its ending because I guess it was original at the time. But even in the 1974 version, I thought it was pretty trite and contrived. I actually wondered if they would change the ending, given that it's so well known that I wondered if they might try and mix things up to surprise an audience. And they had an opportunity to have different endings, so I wondered if they would do that. And I said that to Ryan going in, I wonder if this is going to happen this way. But so the other thing that I wanted to talk about Branagh to some degree is I think most of the all-star cast are very good, except for one. And I'll talk about that later momentarily. But what do you guys feel about the performances overall? Ryan, I'll let you go first.
So I thought overall, very strong performances. I think Michelle Pfeiffer, Kenneth Branagh, stood out as obviously. I think he did a really, really good job. He was just a fun character to watch. Johnny Depp did his job. He was unlikable. I thought all throughout it was very strong.
Yeah, overall, Michelle Pfeiffer, I was going to get to this, but Michelle Pfeiffer was the real standout to me. I think she's having a great year if you factor in Mother. She's having a terrific year, and she was the real standout if anybody stood out. Me. David, what about you?
I think Kenneth Branagh was, I thought he was great. He definitely got into it, hammed it up. I like to see that at the movies sometimes, just a guy going all out and making it memorable. And yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer was great. I mean, that was more of a realistic, non-caricature performance. So you know,
So of course I liked it.
Yeah, no, it was, but I mean, rightfully so.
So of course, Dave, you sort of hit on the reasons. Why? Can you guess the one performance I didn't like?
I was wondering if it would be Kenneth Branagh that you didn't like, but
yeah, I hated Kenneth Branagh in this movie. And so I'm gonna make my point here. Every once in a while, an artist comes along that seems to channel famous artists from the past. People talk about how Barbra Streisand and Judy Garland, their careers, and how they paralleled in many ways. I think to some degree you can say the same thing about Spielberg and Hitchcock and the way they infuse artfulness into populist entertainment. I even wrote a paper in college about comparing and contrasting the careers of Eastwood and Bogart in their respective genres, the Western and the film noir. Another obvious one, I think, is obviously Kenneth Branagh and Laurence Olivier. Getting these comparisons throughout his career to Olivier, and he's definitely, to me, taken them to heart, almost too much so. And like his antecedent, Olivier, he likes to disappear and make up big noses and accents. And I mentioned Olivier's performance in Khartoum in our 1966 show. Unfortunately, I think Branagh acts as if he's Olivier in the 40s, bigger and over the top. He's a ham. In his films, when he acts in his own films, he's completely unanastic. He's always acting and never being. A mustache and an accent do not a performance make. Now, to be fair, Poirot isn't a three-dimensional character in the novel, in any of the novels either. He's just a really good detective that has an acute observational skill. Any sort of depth that's trying to add to him, whether it's his love, Catherine, or whatever it was, that's all forced. And that's true in the novels as well. But I don't think what Branagh brings to the table is good. He's pushing. He's too much in this movie. You guys both liked him, but are you seeing my points, Ryan?
But I think that's part of what I was saying when I said this film is an homage back to a different kind of film. I was with him in that. I saw it happening, but I wasn't against it. And yeah, I think we could nominate him for maybe Best On-Screen Mustache. That's definitely something that can get in there for the awards ceremonies, because that's a pretty glorious mustache.
It's like you agree with me, but you don't care, is what it sounds like. That sounds like...
You know, if you go back to our Land Ho episode, when someone does a performance like this, when it's all caricature and shtick, it all comes down to, do you like it? And if you don't, it's going to just annoy you through the whole movie. There can be other performances that you don't like, but you can get through it because it's not as grating as someone hamming it up and doing a particular character. Like, I'm really a caricature of a character. I was on board. I enjoyed it. But I can see how if you're not liking it, it's going to wreck the whole movie for you.
Everyone else was good enough and the visuals were good enough that I wouldn't even say it wrecked the whole movie for me. But and I'm impressed by the rare Land Ho reference. You don't get that every day. I don't suppose you've seen Land Ho, Ryan.
Yeah, I was like, no. I mean, one performance that reminded me of it, I guess, and this is even more heightened than this one, is Jake Gyllenhaal in Okja. I think is a similar kind of, you got to commit. And I don't think he's as out of place as Jake Gyllenhaal in Okja is, but I do think that, he commits to this character. And just like Okja, which I liked, I think this one didn't ruin it for me.
Well, in fairness, I think that I have almost always have an issue with Branagh. Especially when he directs himself. His best performance for the last 15 years or 25 years at this point, I think, is when he plays Olivier in a movie we also reviewed, My Week with Marilyn, episode 28.2. That's the best work he's done in years, which is ironic. Simon Curtis directed that. And the other defense of Branagh is what I was saying about the source material. There's not much depth to that character anyway. But I mean, you talk about hamming it up. I mean, we saw how Michelle Pfeiffer can bring depth to this character. We saw how Daisy Ridley can bring depth to her character. It is possible. I also want to note how Daisy Ridley, I couldn't get over the fact that she kept reminding me of Keira Knightley when she wore that wig. I kept forgetting it was Daisy Ridley and thinking it was Keira Knightley. But ultimately, my issue comes with the source material, which I think is highly contrived, and the movie can never escape that. I would say, though, overall, this movie is stronger and more cinematic than Sidney Lumet's version, which is a little dry. Trivia tidbit, do you guys know which character won an Oscar for the 1974 version?
No.
Don't think so, no.
It was Best Supporting Actress.
The one Michelle Pfeiffer.
Guess which character? My other clue is Ingrid Bergman won the award. It's not Michelle Pfeiffer. It was the Penelope Cruz role won the Oscar.
Oh,
okay.
And not to say that the Sidney Lumet version upped that character at all. It really is just that Ingrid Bergman was old and had won 2 Oscars and she was famous, and so they're like, hey, let's give her another one. That's really what that was about. It's nothing particularly special about Ingrid Bergman's performance in Murder in the Orient Express. Guys, anything else you want to say about Murder in the Orient Express before I close out?
Watch the movie in sequence. Don't start with the end.
Words of wisdom from Drunk Davie, literally. Ryan.
Yeah, I'd say if you enjoy old detective movies, this is for you. If you're into more modern, more overstimulated kind of Hollywood, you're not going to enjoy this. I think I can see why the critics are split.
I gotta recommend then The Maltese Falcon and Out of the Past. If you want old detective movies, why not watch The Maltese Falcon and Out of the Past? So, just saying is all I'm saying. Our next current feature is over a month away, and our tradition continues with our annual December Star Wars movie. On December 21st, we're going to talk about The Last Jedi, me, Davey, and supposedly a new member of the No Name Cinema Society. A lot can happen with schedules between now and then, but right now it's supposed to be me, Davey, and even a newer member of the No Name Cinema Society. However, even before then, we've got 3 shows coming up. Our Indie Spotlight, our Classic, and our Sound Off, and our Indies up first this Monday, November 20th. Our Indie Spotlight is the 2012 French film Rust and Bone with Marion Cotillard and Matthias Schoenaerts. All right, anything you want to say overall? Closing thoughts for the episode? Davey, you want to say anything to the audience?
No. Oh yeah, I got something for the audience. Why don't you subscribe to the channel? How about it?
Or like us our Facebook page. Ryan, do you like our Facebook page?
I mean, yeah, I like it from a personal perspective. Do I physically on Facebook like it? That's a good question. I'll have to check.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to say also thank you to Ryan. Before I close out, I do want to say thank you, Ryan, for joining us. Welcome to the No Name Cinema Society. You were a valued member.
Thank you.
Ryan's next show probably won't be until 2018, but we look forward to that. In the meantime, we'll see you on Monday, and this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned.